Hello, welcome to Flutterbug Auto. Today I'm talking about Need for Speed Heat. I am not very familiar with the Need for Speed series. In fact, I was so unfamiliar when I was at GameStop about a month ago, looking at the PS4 section, I realized that Need for Speed and Fast and the Furious were two different series. When I saw them both separately on the shelf, I've been playing this game thinking dang, where's Vin Diesel? Well, Laney, he's in another series entirely. Fast and the Furious is not even primarily a game series. It's mostly a movie series, whereas Need for Speed is pretty much just entirely a game series. So I got nothing for how I mixed them up in my head. I think it's gotta just be that, I'd see arcade games for both of them when I was a kid, going to the arcade at the beach. But I didn't even realize how prolific this series is compared to Fast and the Furious. More recently, I was looking at the game section at Walmart, and I saw 3 separate games in the Need for Speed series, next to a single Fast and Furious game from notable shovelware publisher Outright Games. The Need for Speed games all seem like big budget games, and Fast and the Furious is getting budget titles. Again, this is probably mostly because Need for Speed is a game series, and Fast and the Furious is a movie series, but still, it's so funny to me. So anyway, I saw this game on sale for $4 during a Steam sale, and I was I've never played any Need for Speed anything outside of occasionally dipping into the arcade games when I find them. So it could be fun to just jump into the series here and make a video sharing my thoughts. And of course, if you all like this video, I can check out more of the series too. Let me know in the comments if there's any other Need for Speed games you'd like to see me play. The other notable thing about this game for me was that this is my first open world racing game as well. And my first impression is that it feels a lot like a Grand Theft Auto type of game, except for without guns or any car stealing. And also there's no pedestrians to run over. But it's still got that vibe of doing illegal stuff, and your car destroys everything it touches. Plus there's the escalating levels of police chases, which I'll get into later. The game has stuff to do all over the place, as you'd imagine for an open world game, though I'm not sure all of it is especially well suited to a racing game, because a lot of it is just driving around and picking up collectibles. It's not really anything very specific to being in a car to facilitate, There are also more car-focused activities, like driving over ramps and hitting certain speeds, which I am glad to see, because those do actually involve the car, but in both of those cases, they do still feel less skill-based, and they're more about just upgrading to a fast enough car to make it happen. The game does have 10 million cars in it, and all sorts of varieties though, which is very nice. Out of the little activities, I think my favorites were crashing through billboards. That never gets old. I also enjoyed this little bit of dialogue that makes the weird glowing flamingos that you have to run over into something that actually diegetically exists in the world. That's really fun. Just in general, being open world also opens it up to little oddities like that. This car I found that was just sitting here and was kind of beat up, so did it fall off the bridge? What happened? And there's this one forest that's just always on fire. At first it just looks like a burnt down forest, but if you look closely, it's on fire all the time. What an incredible choice to just put in this game. It is really fun to just drive around in this game though, which is definitely important for a game with a huge map to drive around in, Yeah, I sure hope it's fun. One funny aspect though is that you're basically never incentivized to drive normally. You are never incentivized to follow traffic laws. You can just zoom around to your heart's content, since during the day, you'll really never run into the police, and at night, the police will come after you no matter what you're doing. So you may as well just floor it past them, right? And as mentioned, we'll get into the police mechanics in more detail later. But generally, in terms of gameplay, the game just feels great. It has a great sense of speed, especially when you start getting faster cars, and you can just absolutely get to zoom in. It's great. My favorite car I ended up playing with was the one from the cover, this purple Corvette. That one was so much fun. I love how it looks. I love zooming around in it. Fantastic car. Had a great time. The cars just have a great get up and go to them. I love the feeling as they're starting up and the over-the-top fiery backfiring they do. Absolutely love some good backfiring, and this game does it so satisfyingly. The drifting also feels really good, which is also a very good thing, because there's a lot of drifting focus levels in the game. And I had a ton of fun with those. I especially enjoyed that you can tune up your car for different purposes. I had a lot of fun setting up a car for drifting and then killing it at the drift missions. There's a really great variety of races in general. In particular, I really liked the time trial races. Oh, what a surprise! The Track Media girl loves the time trials. The main thing I liked about them, though, was that they had really fun layouts with really narrow corners and such, which made great use of, honestly, my favorite technique in the game, the handbrake, which I really enjoy for the way it just lets you absolutely whip the fuck around corners. It feels amazing, and I use it all the time. Maybe a little bit too much, honestly. But yeah, I also really like this one race on the, like, proper racetrack. The vibes there were just impeccable. And I'm a real sucker for NASCAR type racing, so it was a real treat to get to do a little bit of that in this game. And of course, the nighttime races are really thrilling with the way you've got to weave through traffic at high speed and avoid the police and everything. And while car damage isn't exactly the most realistic in this game, the crashes are super solid and you really feel the impact. So if you mess up and crash into traffic, it is still a lot of fun. And it was also always a ton of fun bumping into opponents and trying to get them to wipe out. I really like the presentation of the daytime races as well, though. The colorful flags and everything give them such a fun vibe. It really reminds me of Trackmania Turbo's vibes, and we all know how I feel about those. Also peppered in are the story missions because, of course, this game has a story. These are mostly just regular races, like the rest of the game, but with some added dialogue and, as you might imagine, moving the plot along. But there's some really fun variety in them as well, like this one where you have to do basically a boss battle against this police guy. And I also really like this one where you race on the beach. I am also sucker for off-road racing vibes like that, which I'm planning to hopefully talk about soon with some more. I really want to do a video about that off-road racing game I got recently. Also, the gameplay loop in this game is really fun too. Basically, during the day, you participate in official racing events, which earns you money, and then at night you participate in illegal street races, which increase your reputation in the street racing community, which unlocks more cars and upgrade parts to buy. So it's a really fun back and forth of unlocking cars and then getting the money to buy them with, though the version of the game that was on sale was the deluxe edition, which just comes with a bunch of good cars for you to get automatically just for increasing your reputation. So I mostly just leaned on those most of the time, but you still had to get money to upgrade them. So I still got to experience the system working out. Back on the topic of the story, one little thing that did bug me though was that the game has a bunch of player characters to pick from. You can't customize their appearances, only their outfits. But they're treated like a custom character and only kind of awkwardly referred to in game. Like dialogue and cutscenes just says player and stuff like that, despite the fact that they're a fully integrated character with voice acted dialogue and everything. I think it would feel considerably less awkward at that point if they were instead each just named characters. Like, it's clear I'm not actually playing as me, so it'd be nice if the game just acknowledged that. Like, make it a character I choose to play as instead of acting like a custom character. If I can actually make a custom character, it doesn't even have to be anything particularly fancy. Just give them each a name and then boom, awkwardness removed. Like, they already have unique voices and everything, so just name them. I can't even input my name into this game. It either just shows up as player or as my username, which is in itself kind of awkward because everyone that you race with has proper names, you know? They all have proper names, and then I'm over here called Flutter Girly, and so I just feel completely out of place. It's only a minor thing, but it was kind of an annoyance, you know? Another thing that kept coming up for me is how, like, at the beginning of the game, they make the police a big deal. They show you how corrupt they are and how they almost just killed this guy. They're so ruthless and they hate the street racers so much and etc. But when you actually play the game, yeah, the police are aggressive and chase you at the drop of a hat. But if you get caught, then basically nothing happens. You just see a cutscene of your character getting arrested and then you get a fine and that's it. So much for making them seem scary. Like, of course it's like that because it's a video game and it's just a game mechanic at the end of the day. But it's also a classic example of how ludonarrative dissonance comes to be. The story wanting to make me feel one way about things when the gameplay completely undermines it. I think they could have kept the end if it was more of a game over type deal. Like, when you get caught, the game just rewinds time, so the timeline where you get arrested is just treated as a failed timeline. But I digress. It's all a little bit silly in general. Like, if you lose your tires to a spike strip, it's only a temporary setback and your tires just respawn a bit later. The game is in such a funny spot because it's decidedly an arcade racer, but it's also trying to look and feel immersive and realistic. But it's also a video game and everything is, at the end of the day, a game mechanic at heart. That's why your tires respawn. That's why all you get for being arrested is a fine, because it's a game and those are game mechanics pretending to be couched in reality. reality. Relatedly, the world it depicts is, well, it's not exactly on the level of like Hot Wheels media, which has very racing-centric infrastructure and world building to the point of absurdity. This one is still pretty well grounded in reality compared to that, but it's on its way there. It's kind of like Pokemon, where everything is negotiated through Pokemon battles. Here, everything is negotiated through street racing, and it's so funny. Like, sure, you yourself are a racer, and you're working in a garage, and all of that. But, like, the only way you end up communicating, or socializing, or getting help from anyone is in the form of racing and driving, and it's just very cute, honestly. It does mostly just end up giving you the feeling that the game is just laser-focused on a specific little slice of the world, because it is. But pretty much every racing game or piece of racing media that I've ever seen that has some kind of plot ends up with contrivances like this and depict an often oddly racing-focused world. It's always so funny that, like, when you think too much into it. Another thing about the open world that makes it so nice is the visuals. In particular, I enjoyed the way it looks in the rain, the way the palm trees blow in the wind, the way the road gets all shiny at night. Wonderful touches. The lighting in general was very nice. The different times of day looked beautiful, and in particular, another favorite detail of mine was being able to see the lights of the city in the distance at night. They did such a wonderful job depicting that. It was honestly a real treat to look at. Before I started playing the game, one of the complaints I saw in the reviews was that the police chases were a little too numerous and went on a bit too long, and I think I can see that. But as the game went on, I got a bit better at handling them. Partially because my car was just faster, and partially because I figured out a good strategy, which is just to book it to the highway as fast as possible, and then just book it down the highway for as long as possible. Of course, the issue of there being so numerous is still there. You really just kind of get locked into it for however long it goes on for. It can get annoying, though you do get the ability to bribe them at the start, but like having to pay them periodically is still going to be a nuisance. The reason to run away from them is to avoid getting a fine, so if you're just having to pay them off all the time anyway, then it's not much of a different outcome than getting caught by them, is it? Other than the fact that you can, you know, just go do other things immediately. The police stuff is a major part of this game in particular, though. The game is named after the heat mechanic, which is like a wanted level in Grand Theft Auto, but I think the majority of people playing the game are going to be in it for the races, and the police chases just end up interrupting those. Maybe people would have liked it better if they were a side mode you could opt into like everything else. Like, the own boss fight table level with the police was really fun. Maybe it would have been better if they were all like that. Just a level you can choose to play when you want to. I remember similar complaints to this with Bowser's Fury, also an open world game in which you are periodically interrupted by some kind of event. In that game's case, Fury Bowser. And like, I don't know, for me, in both cases, the game is built around those interruptions. They're part of the flow of the game. Like, at night in this game, your goal is to build up reputation. And the more races you do, the more heat you build up, but also the more reputation you gain. And the goal is to get as much as possible and still make it home safe in the end to cash it all out. And like, I thought that was fun, actually. I think I really like this game's format, actually. I like Bowser's Fury as well, honestly. So yeah, all in all, I've been having a blast with this game. I love the presentation, I love the gameplay loop, and there is so much stuff to do in this game. I'm definitely going to keep playing it for quite a while. I am a bit worried about this game's future though, given that it's tied to EA's service, and it's full of licensed vehicles, which is the death of many a racing game, such as the 2010 game Blur I've recently been trying out, which was a pain to find and get set up in the modern day due to it having been taken down when its licenses expired. But anyway, as I mentioned earlier, definitely let me know if there's any other Need for Speed games you'd like to see me play. And as always, I've got more racing content coming up in the near future, including a video I am planning on Mario Kart World, which should be fun to compare to this game since they're both open world racing games. See you soon!